cheaters, murderers and thieves. The places that I've been to, I wish I hadn't seen. Damn my eyes, damn my eyes.
All right, so today we're talking about James Douglas and Morrison.
Welcome all.
Yeah, welcome one and all to the this week's Death in Music experience, where we dish on someone who's dead, and then we more or less get everything about their life wrong. I think that's our tradition, right?
Yeah, if it ain't Tom Petty, we ain't talking shit.
Yeah, it's either that or we just spit on the graves of the dead. You know, good old fashioned traditions.
Yeah, we don't even have to give him one of those names at the end. We already know who he is.
That's true. Massey, you jumped way to the end. You're getting better at this.
Jumped the gun. These assholes are so fucking predictable.
I know, right? Well, you know what? He crowned himself, so we can't help it. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of these people had nicknames before we got to them. So yeah, here we go. This is Jim Morrison of the Doors. If you don't know who Jim Morrison is, like, what the fuck have you been doing with your life? I mean, everyone knows who Jim Morrison is. Also, Club 27 mentioned this here, and this is probably hard for you to see. I don't have it in my notes, but apparently born December 8th, 1943. I know my window's cutting off his death, which is July 3rd, 1971. So that makes him
1370. Yeah,
that makes him 27.
27 years old.
Death.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Him and Joplin and fucking Hendrix. Yeah, it's like, goddamn, who didn't die at 27? Also, wasn't Kurt Cobain? Wasn't he one of them? I don't know if I remember.
Kurt Cobain, yeah, that's another one that we covered. Yeah, 27.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, everyone just dies at 27 if they're any good anyway.
Who had the most albums though?
Oh, let's see. I mean, the Doors have what, like 5 studio albums. Nirvana has like
I think
3.
I think the Doors accomplished more, didn't they? Because Amy had, 2. Like she had like EPs and stuff, but 2 actual studio albums. Joplin had 3.
If you go by studio albums, it's the Doors, I think. But then like Jimi Hendrix recorded like a ton of just like crap out there. There's like a ton of stuff like to his name, like. So if you find his discography, I think it's slightly bigger than the Doors, and he's one guy too, so you got to give him credit for that.
True.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, as a band, I think the Doors did more like than like the Jimi Hendrix experience, at least.
Hell yeah, got kicked out of the fucking Whiskey A Go Go, man. Banned.
I didn't know that. I didn't know they were banned from Whiskey A Go. I knew they started there or like they played there. What's the story behind that?
He was singing that song. We're talking about like I think like fucking his mom. I don't know. He gets
that he does that. He talks about the Elvis thing. The father.
Yeah.
I want to kill you.
Yeah. And then he was wild, man.
Oh yeah, he was nuts, dude. He was out of his goddamn mind, dude. He seems so serene at times, and then at other times he's just a maniac, dude.
Val Kilmer did
him justice.
Jim Morrison some justice, yeah.
I don't know.
As much as we can know from a guy who's been dead for a long time.
I always knew there was that Doors movie, right? And me and Liz started to watch it, dude, and we got like halfway through it, and honestly, we couldn't stomach it because like it felt like as if Jim Morrison came back from the dead and made the movie himself. Like it feels like really pretentious, like.
Oh yeah, straight up.
Yeah, and it's directed by what's his face, the guy who did JFK, Oliver Stone. It was like
Oliver Stone.
Yeah, he was like a well-known director and everything. I mean, I don't know much of his work other than JFK. Do you know anything else that guy's done? But like, I didn't like the movie.
Natural Born Killers.
Oh, there you go. There is a good movie.
That's a dope ass fucking movie, man.
Yeah, but like,
he's done a bunch of good shit.
The Doors movie is just like too artsy, dude. And then like Val Kilmer is a good actor, and like. Through the whole movie, he has the douchiest look on his face, which is like half of that is just Val Kilmer's face. But like the other half of that is like him trying to be Jim Morrison because I don't see that look on his face in other movies. So like that took me out of it. It was like hard to watch, dude. But like it gets a lot of like the major points of the story right, and it tells the story right. But it feels like a drug trip, which I know is what they're going for. I get it.
Yeah. It's all about like fucking experimenting with psychedelics and getting on that whole ball. If people thought that the Queen movie had plot holes into what the band was, you've never seen The Doors, you don't know shit. That movie should have been named Jim Morrison.
I know, dude. Me and Liz were saying the same thing. We're like, at least they named the Queen biopic, or the Freddie Mercury biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. So it didn't have to be about Queen, didn't have to be about Freddie Mercury. Kind of just this whole phenomenon. But they called this movie The Doors, and it's like 90% about Jim Morrison. Like, what the fuck was the point of that? Ray Manzarek, I think. Ray, right?
Manzarek, yeah. He was
the co-founder, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's the other driving force of the band. He actually has talent too, dude. Like his little organ solos and stuff, like kind of really like edge out their sound, especially because the Gypsies have no home, the Doors have no bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because his keyboard he actually plays pretty low. Like it's a bass keyboard, even though he plays like high notes.
He does the bass line.
The tone is it's a bass keyboard. Like he's playing like the low melody.
Yeah.
Even in his solos like they go up pretty high.
Right.
But they're still low. They're still like playing bass. I
was reading though that like on the studio albums there is bass though, because like live they didn't have a bassist, but then I guess on the studio albums, they would like mirror the bass lines of the organ, because like otherwise it sounded like hollow, which makes me think their live performance probably like left something to be desired if you got like no bass. It's like they're so renowned for having no bass. But at the same time...
but you're doing fucking hard drugs, so...
Yeah, I guess, like, the bass can be in your mind. I want to respond to Mazzy here really quick, that which songs would you have used for the title instead of The Doors? There's so many they could have used. Like, I don't know, like...
Break On Through?
Strange, yeah, Break On Through, Light My Fire, just any name of a song. Just like... I
mean, look,
choose one.
Light My Fire could have worked because of how he falls in love with, what's her name, with Meg Ryan?
Pamela, Meg Ryan, yeah, Pamela, or something.
And the fact is that they have like a toxic fucking relationship in the movie, but they still love each other. So Light My Fire would have worked if it was like, because it's like a lot about her more than the fucking band too.
True, yeah. That's good.
And Break On Through, because he gets everybody on fucking psychedelics in the movie.
yeah. Well, he thought he was a shaman, dude. Apparently, he thought he was a shaman.
But I still love it.
You know what? I get it. You know what? I think it does him justice. I think it's in his style, which is what Oliver Stone was going for.
Yeah, and then plus, I mean, it's one of those movies where the soundtrack is the shit because it's original fucking track listing, you know?
Yeah, true. Yeah, like you can't go wrong with old Doors music. Another thing is I started listening to their whole discography, and they're another band that like their music is just good, like solid, like all of it's solid. They have a ton of hits, but the B-sides are really solid. Like their music is really good, and I honestly didn't know that till I started doing this episode. But then like like a ton of like at least 3 songs from every album were like single worthy or were single.
Oh man, oh yeah, like. Very few bands do I love to the point where I listen to all their shit continuously. What do you have of theirs?
I have the whole studio discography right now queued up.
James Douglas Jim Morrison, which I think you already mentioned, right? His full name?
That's right. Apparently ranked number 47 on Rolling Stone's list of 100 greatest singers of all times. Something about that too is that like he's more of a poet than a singer, I feel. His father doubted his ability to sing. And when you think about it... I was just going to say, he stays in a range. Like, he always stays in, like, a short range. He hits the notes, but he doesn't do anything, like, crazy vocally, like, talent-wise.
Well, he was... Yeah, I never considered him a singer.
Yeah.
It was like a spoken word poet with melody.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. That's kind of his style.
But it's still one of the greatest American singers of all time.
Oh, for sure. No, he deserves all the credit he gets. But it's just interesting because he's known as one of the greatest singers, and I kind of never really noticed till I started analyzing him that, like, he's not, like... He's no Freddie Mercury, right, as far as, like...
like range and all. No.
He's, like, kind of monotone, but he's, like, really... It's great, though. It's great to listen to him. It's just, like, one of his unique styles.
I think what complements him was Ray. Because I think that was like the strongest duo. Like the whole band was good and everything, but Ray knew how to complement his vocals.
Yeah, dude, it was really those two. Those two were the Doors. It feels like everyone else is like some hanger-on. 100 best rock singers. You're right. It's so. It's in quotes. Yeah, good point, Matt. All right, let's start getting to the early years.
All right.
So okay, as we said, born in 1943, born to Clara, Virginia, and Rear Admiral George Stephen Morrison. His dad was actually a pretty high-ranking officer.
You know who he is, right? You know what he's responsible for, right?
Yeah, something during Vietnam. I know he led the Gulf of Tonkin incident, but I don't know much.
Yeah,
about it.
he's the reason we went into Vietnam.
Yeah, like it kicked off the Vietnam War, right?
Which gets into my conspiracy theory about Jim Morrison actually being an MK Ultra or a CIA asset.
Oh, and then they killed him. They killed him to shut him up because his death is so suspicious, dude.
Everybody talks about how suspicious his death is.
It is. It really is. Because there's very little information about his death other than a death certificate and a grave. But
and then you take him out in a different country, so there's no fucking questions asked.
Really weird, odd stuff going on. And Mazzy, I just want to point out that Mazzy said that he asked if the film was pretentious, if there was a 7-minute organ solo with Jim Morrison talking over it. Because, yeah, Jim Morrison is pretty pretentious, dude. His poetry's pretty pretentious. He made short films that were pretentious. If I had to think of the most pretentious musician ever, it might be Jim Morrison. I mean, he's
I just want to ask himself. Mazzy, you've never seen the movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like something you might see, Mazzy.
I got a Blu-ray copy right here for you.
Nice.
That I actually watch like once every 3 months.
Yeah. Dude, you know what I really like was the scene where they're like composing that like drum circle style song. What's that song called, dude? And they're like all in the desert tripping balls, and they write that song.
Oh, is it Holding the Earth? No, that's the one where he's tripping balls and he's getting his dick sucked in the fucking elevator in the movie.
Good times. That's a good way to. That's a good way to go. In general.
Okay, man. See, where you're gonna borrow this movie, you're gonna watch it.
Yeah, dude.
There's music. Just so you know.
You haven't heard of any of the Doors music before, right? Come on, dude. It's all unique. It'll be your first time, I swear. No, but you know what? Actually, in the Freddie Mercury biopic, at least they use live stuff to mix it up, instead of album cuts. That's a smart idea. That's a smart way to do things in your movie. But okay, yeah. So
yeah. Come on, Oliver Stone, pick it up for the next musical biopic that you're gonna probably listen.
You know what? There's been 20 years of cinema progress since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so people have learned some things.
I'm trying to figure out what year it's from.
You could probably
91.
91. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You could
91.
I might be cutting this off on your view, Ellie, but dude, this motherfucker really does look like Marky Mark. There's just no way around it, dude.
Didn't I tell you? I told you. Mark Wahlberg would have been a better fucking once you see it once, that's it. But if you pull up the picture from their greatest hits album, it's a black and white one with the red letters, The Doors.
Oh yeah.
That's Mark Wahlberg.
I'm gonna look it up really quick. Let me see.
Yeah, man.
See if I can open Chrome without. Okay, it's what is it? Which one is it?
The greatest hits. The very best of the Doors. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay. The very best of the Doors. Let's take a look at this really quick.
It's Marky Mark, bro.
One, dude, yeah.
Yeah, he would have played a perfect fucking Jim Morrison.
Let me put this up for everyone really quick. Yeah, because if you look, dude, when he's a little more, a little less baby-faced, he looks so much like Marky Mark. Maybe Jim Morrison just faked his death and he's Marky Mark. That might explain some things.
It explains what was it? The Funky Bunch.
The Funky Bunch, yeah.
Okay, so
all right, he had a younger sister. Now you know who
his dad is, though.
Yeah, his dad actually has some kind of his name precedes him too. Crazily enough.
Well, but also remember that was also a false flag.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a false flag.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I know very little about that incident.
Oh yeah, man, check it out, dude. That shit. It's a rabbit hole on its own.
Really?
It's kind of crazy that he's the father of Jim Morrison, and Jim Morrison was part of the whole Laurel Canyon experiment or whatever they would call it.
And that's
we'll get into that.
Into MK Ultra, huh?
Yeah, you got a lot of people that are part of that.
When you look into
that whole
MK
thing.
Ultra, there's like Timothy McVeigh, like there's like confirmation Timothy McVeigh was involved in the MK Ultra experiments. And then once you realize that, you think, oh shit, did they program him to do something? And then it makes you wonder. It's like, wait, how far does that go then if they're able to successfully do that? And then it makes you want to stop asking questions. So, for your own safety. It's good times.
Mm-hmm.
It's good times.
Oh,
MK
yeah.
Ultra is a scary concept.
Yeah, because you don't know who's an MK Ultra.
Yeah, and it's not just like a paranoid conspiracy theory, because if you look into MK Ultra, like, it's an official experiment they were doing. There's documentation on it. It was supposedly discontinued, but it's probably classified when that happened and how that happened. They're not going to come out publicly and actually admit that, right? So then, like, you just have to take it on faith. So it's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah, it's mostly like fucking geniuses.
Yeah, that's a thing too. Is there seems to be like commonality between the people they do the experiments on.
Yeah, and Jim Morrison wasn't no fool either, man.
Oh no, dude, this guy was like, yeah. So there's a picture of Nietzsche here. This guy asked his parents for like the complete works of Nietzsche translated in English when he was a teenager. Like total genius, dude. He was into like heavily into philosophy. Supposedly a lot of his lyrics are about like what is it, Apollonian versus Dionysian philosophy. Like that's pretty heavy shit for like a teenager to be into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, really intelligent guy. Had a good head on his shoulders, but also a little crazy and a little egotistic. Good old Jim Morrison. Good guy.
Yeah, for real, right? You think about it, it's like what fuels that crazy, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like,
yeah.
Constantly, like, on the move with a fucking military dad, military family.
Right.
Seen some fucked up shit. He saw that accident on the freeway, which is actually a true story.
Yeah, but it's just there's like that's at odds with what his parents say. And me and Liz were talking about this earlier, actually, because he says he saw blood and gore and these dead Indians, right? And and they were scattered all over the road. But his parents supposedly say, like, oh, it wasn't like that. We saw like a minor fender bender accident. But then to me, it's like, then why would that have left an impression on him at all? Like, why would he like still be writing about it nearly to his death? Like, so.
Well, because people kind of downplayed that type of shit, especially because it was just a bunch of natives, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, me and Liz were talking about it because, like, your parents have a way of whitewashing things they don't like talking about, you know? Like, I think everyone has gone through that experience with their parents. Like, oh, no, it wasn't that bad. No, I didn't want that hard. Like, you know what I mean?
Learn how to take a punch, bitch.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't have that much of a drinking problem. You know, they like to whitewash the past. So I have a feeling, I mean, even if he was over-exaggerating it somewhat, I'm sure he saw something that scarred him. I believe it.
Right.
And then I don't know if you know about this thing. He says that he feels that he was inhabited by the spirit of one of the dead Indians there.
Oh, one of the chiefs, right?
Yeah, one of the shamans or something out of that. It followed him for the rest of his life. Yeah. See, it's the stuff like that is like borderline, are you a genius, or are you just a pretentious jerk, or are you really possessed? Like, I don't know what to think about you. Like, sometimes you just makes me angry.
You remember when they did that shit in Wayne's World too?
Oh yeah, that's how it starts, right? Like the Indian, or they start. An Indian takes them to see Jim Morrison, right? Like in the desert.
Yeah. He wakes up and he sees an Indian just standing in his hallway, and he runs away.
Yeah.
Just follows. Ends up in the desert and meets Jim Morrison.
Yeah, and Jim Morrison tells him to throw a music festival.
Yeah, and then what's that crazy flamboyant ass guy, the old guy, Rip Torn?
Oh yeah, Rip Torn. Yeah.
He's like, I met this guy. I had no idea who he was. Jimmy Morrison? I fucking love that movie, man.
Yeah, that movie's great, dude. Dude, both Wayne's Worlds are like perfect movies. It's usually hard to make a sequel and not screw it up, but they did it pretty good.
They did justice. And you know, Chris Farley's cameos, just gold, man.
Chris Farley's great in everything, dude. He's
gold.
Like, that guy like goes all in on his comedy.
Yeah, Dan Farley.
Yeah.
All right, so and this incident, he always referred to it as he talked about it in his song "Peace Frog."
Yeah, Peace Frog. Yeah. He
And then-
sings about that specifically in Peace Frog. I wonder if I can
Yeah, and then he had something. He would talk about because it was Don's Highway, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he always like brought it back to, like when he talked about Don's Highway or the Ghost song.
Mhm.
Like that's what it was referring to, Peace Frog.
He was also like obsessed with like the highway. He was always talking about the highway, probably because he was like he has a short film named Highway or HWY actually. I watched bits and pieces of it. It's extremely boring because it's mostly just like footage of the highway. But it's one of his short works he did when he was in art school. And I guess it makes sense, right? Because he's constantly moving around. He saw like a traumatizing incident on the highway, and I think he even wrote a song called "Queen of the Highway," right? Or that's about Pamela, I think, or is rumored to be about her. I think.
A lot of the shit was written for Pamela, though.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. They apparently had this like just this effect on each other, dude.
It was toxic, but it worked somehow. I mean, shit, we've all been there.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
It's fucking toxic, but you love that person so much.
Yeah.
But you've hurt each other, so it's like it's no matter what. At the end of the day, it's toxic.
Yeah, but also sometimes it's like that toxicity is like
flammable.
Fuel. Yeah, it's like a catalyst.
Yeah, it's flammable as fuck, bro. I just had this conversation.
Yeah, everyone's been there, dude. Everyone's had one of those relationships. Yeah, so
it's a flammable, toxic thing, but it's beautiful sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes it really sometimes it shapes your life for the better. Sometimes not though, shit.
Sometimes it'll fuck you up.
True story, man.
But for him, it was a result into a good amount of songs, man. We got what do we got? L.A. Woman. Maybe not L.A.
Let's see, because there's a lot of stuff you might be able to attribute to her. Trying to think.
Let's just name songs we think that might be attributed to her.
Yeah, I'm going through some here. I'm trying to think about
Backdoor Man.
Backdoor Man.
Yeah, you never know, man. She might have been a freak back in the 70s.
Maybe Love Her Madly.
Oh, Love Her. Yeah, Love Her Madly. I know that one's for sure.
Oh, but isn't that one of those ones that's written by the guitarist? Because the guitarist wrote like a handful of their greatest hits. Like it's like Morrison wrote like half of their best singles, and he wrote like half of them. It seems, or at least four or five of them he wrote them.
My Eyes Have Seen You.
Oh, there you go.
Hello, I Love You.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, supposedly I heard an anecdote about that a long time ago.
Not to say eat a dick. Stop shitting down my ideas.
No, I don't know if it's true or not. I just wanted to bring it up because I heard it. I heard it on like NPR or something that him and Ray were on the beach, dude, and they saw this beautiful black girl, and they were both like instantly smitten with her, and like they were talking about how to approach her, and Jim Morrison basically came up with the line like "Hello, I love you. Let me tell me your name."
Won't you tell me your name?
Yeah, and they ended up turning that into the song. But I don't know how true that is, because you know how these things get like fucking like muddied after time and over exaggerated and embellished. Like, so who knows? But I heard that story once from Ray on NPR.
Well, I'll choose to believe it.
I would like to believe that. I want to point this out really quick. So it's like you said, he ended up in Venice at some point. That's like kind of like during the time of like college, right? Those eras,
right?
But like, yeah, he attended Alameda High School, like, dude, like, so he was like local for like most of his adolescence, even though he moved around all over the place.
He went to UCLA, correct?
Yeah, he went to UCLA for college. So he pretty much settled in California. It's pretty crazy. He's a local, and so as I said about Jim Morrison, literary influences, he was really into Nietzsche. Like I said, Apollonian and Dionysian duality, which is like Apollo is order and Dionysus is chaos, if I remember correctly, in like Roman mythology? Yeah, Apollo's Roman, right? I don't know. I'm just kind of
Apollo is Greek.
Greek? Okay, Greek then. There we go. Greek mythology.
Now you got me like thinking. I knew this stuff.
Yeah, tell me about it, right? This is like stuff like you haven't had to think about in a while.
No, but he is, it's Roman and Greek. It is Apollo, it's the same shit.
Yeah, but then they have like different names in Roman and Greek for the same gods. That's the thing that throws you off, you know what I mean?
He was the god of music and medicine.
Ah, I see.
in both Greek and Roman. Yeah, actually, I think he's one of the few that has the same name in both different.
Oh, really?
Mythologies.
Oh, interesting. Must be pretty important then. Oh, okay. That's good. Alley oop there, Lizzie. It's Ares. That's the god of war. That's right. I was looking for that name. But then
I knew
again, okay, and then Dionysus. I don't know. He is also a god of some kind.
Correct.
So another thing I was saying that Jim Morrison was heavily influenced by the beat poets. Like those are all the guys from an era. William Burroughs, who did Naked Lunch, Jack Kerouac, who did The Road, Ginsberg, Ferengeti. These are all like pretty popular names of the time. And then like philosophers like Camus, Albert Camus, Franz Kafka. Franz Kafka did a lot of
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, Andy Kaufman. Yeah, good times. So let's see. In January 1964, Jim Morrison moved to Los Angeles, started to attend the University of California. We're talking about that. So okay, so he majored in fine arts, right? Is that what it is? Did he graduate? I don't know if he graduated. Didn't he graduate? Oh, yeah, he completed his undergraduate.
I think it was in film and shit.
Yeah, he completed his undergraduate degree in film, so he probably has like a bachelor's, probably, and then he made a whole bunch of short films. I like how in the movie the whole class tears apart his movie for being too pretentious, and he's like, "You guys just don't get it." This shit's pretty hilarious.
You don't get it.
You don't understand.
You don't get art.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But it's like more like just calm and with a cigarette in his mouth. Like they just don't get it.
You don't understand. You know, like
they don't understand.
Calmly leave.
They don't. But he moves his head to sides. They don't understand real life.
He's so pretentious. I want to hate him, but he's probably one of the best.
So much.
Yeah, like I want to hate him. I try, but I can't.
You can't, bro. You can't.
But yeah, that's true. Rome did build an empire. All the roads led to Rome. It's true, Mazzy. It's true. So okay, so wait, let's see. So during these years, while living at Venice Beach, he befriended writers of the Los Angeles Free Press. That's like a footnote, dude. So okay, so pretty much, it's hard to say anymore here without talking about the fucking Doors, dude. The Doors.
Yeah, well, I mean, he died at 27, so once we clear out his early years like that, it just gets to the point of the Doors, and that's pretty much a better part up to his death, you know?
Yeah, that's like the majority of his. In a way, it's like half his life, practically. Like, you know, at least his like conscious life, you know, where he's. So what? Okay, the Doors.
So 64 is school and everything. 65 graduation with a bachelor's degree from UCLA. Film school. Man, he's a fucking bohemian at Venice Beach. So he's just chilling, living on a rooftop.
He's living on a rooftop, dude. You don't get more bohemian than living on a rooftop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, dude.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. I like that. Apparently, his friend Dennis Jacobs. Wait, is that the one who said it? No, wait. It's Ray who said he lived on a diet of canned beans and LSD for several months. Like,
that's badass.
That sounds like Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Bunch of unicorn farts will tell you that much.
Yeah, that's a perfect combination of those things.
During the summer of '65, he gets together with Ray, and they form what is the only lineup of the Doors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
well, at least
they don't ever really change.
So the story behind them, like them getting the band together, was that that Ray was lying on the beach right there in Venice, and he accidentally like fucking ran into Morrison, and he was always pretty much impressed with like this dude's mind because he knew him from class,
right?
So Jim, I guess he has his poetry book. He reads some of his shit to him, and Ray loved it, man, and that was it. That was it. That's what like propelled it. Like, fuck it, you know.
Yeah, Ray basically had a crush on him, more or less. That's the vibe I get. Especially when I watched the movie, dude. I'm like, just kiss him already, dude. If you're that into him, just kiss him.
Well, but right after that, they get Robbie Krieger and John Densmore to join the band, which is the drummer and the guitarist. Robbie being the guitarist and John being the drummer.
Yeah, dude, and they're pretty solid, dude. Like a solid band. And then so this is the thing I wanted to mention about Maharishi Mahesh. This guy, that's the same. Yeah, like they were influenced by him, by his transcendental meditation, like his like theory of transcendental meditation, and that's the same yogi that the Beatles went to visit. So like this guy was getting around back in the day. So like before we started doing this, I wanted to like see what he was all about and see if like he was a snake oil salesman or if he was like legit. But I don't know. I mean, anytime someone is telling you like that you can achieve pure bliss, I'm suspicious. So I don't know. The Doors take their name from the Aldous Huxley book, and I've read this book. It's barely a book. It's almost a pamphlet. The Doors of Perception. It's like it's only like 40 or 50 pages long. And I read it. It's about Aldous Huxley taking mescaline in like the 50s or the 60s, and this is when psychedelics are not very like mainstream. So he's super excited because he's like one of the first people to really like trip on psychedelics and write about it. Yeah, outside of like doing it with a shaman somewhere, right? And and Aldous Huxley. The only other thing I know of him writing is Brave New World, which is a pretty good, interesting book. I read that when I was a teenager. Pretty interesting book. But Doors of Perception is the other thing I read about him, and that's why they're called the Doors, because in reference to the Doors of Perception.
So Doors of Perception, yeah.
That's they're all heavily into psychedelics.
Yeah, it's all about psychedelics. But how true is it that he's the one that gets them into psychedelics?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, from everything I've read, it seems to match up because like before he ever even started the band, he was already like crazy into LSD. So it makes sense.
And who was a big Krieger was he pretty much wrote some of the biggest hits, which are just because we were talking about it: Light My Fire, Love Me Two Times, Love Her Madly, and Touch Me.
Yeah. And those are some of their big ones, dude. Those are not slouches. He wrote some good ones. He's no like Ringo. Got some good stuff in there. And so the other thing is the Doors were performing at the Whiskey A Go Go, which as LA residents, you know, that's a name we know for sure. Side by side, Jim Morrison played with Van Morrison's band first as like a side act to them at the same, at the same residency at the Whiskey A Go Go, and supposedly he learned a lot of his performance skill from the way Van Morrison performed. And it's funny too because they have nearly the same name. People pointed out that he learned a lot of his stagecraft from him, and then eventually, on the final night of them performing together in the same place, they played together and they jammed together on Van Morrison's song Gloria, Gloria, and that's just a crazy ass fact to me. These two guys with similar names were in the exact same spot at the same time, playing together and influencing each other. I never even knew, I never suspected that they had any relationship to each other. So that's interesting.
Now, Van Morrison, I know the name.
Oh, you know him, dude. Like he did Moondance. He did Brown Eyed Girl.
Oh, okay. That's Van. All right,
that's
for
Van
sure.
Morrison. Yeah. So he's got a name for himself too. He's around.
And Jim pretty much only knew how to play, I guess, the harmonica, and he would jam on maracas and tambourine, which anybody can really do.
Yeah, he did a little piano on some track, but it's not even an A side, and I guarantee you it wasn't like super technical. No, because I don't think no instrumental skill.
He played the piano in Orange County Suite, and he plays a synthesizer in Strange Days.
Yeah, they did a promotional film for Break On Through that had a whole bunch of their singles on it from the time. This is in 1966. And they broke out with Light My Fire, by the way. I don't know if that needs to be said, but that's their first single that they ever really that they got popularity for was "Light My Fire."
No.
But yeah, dude, that fucking keyboard solo is iconic, dude, and it just goes to show that Ray, that he's also someone, dude. Like he deserves praise for being in that band, and he gets overlooked. Like, I don't know his last name. After 1966, they were doing the short film. Oh, you know what I was going to say is that we've come a long way, because Light My Fire is kind of like a PG song now, but they played that song on Ed Sullivan, and Ed Sullivan asked him to censor basically the Girl We Couldn't Get Much Higher line to turn it into Girl We Couldn't Get Much Better. And of course, Jim Morrison, being Jim Morrison, pulled a Kurt Cobain. Or I guess Kurt Cobain pulled a Jim Morrison.
Any respectable artist just has to do that type of shit.
He's not going to compromise, right? And going to go out there and just sing it how they wrote it. And he did it, and then Ed Sullivan wouldn't even shake their hand after. Like, that's how pissed off he was.
What a cocksucker.
Yeah, and he told them, you guys are never coming back. And why would they need to? They already played the Ed Sullivan show, which supposedly is what Jim Morrison said. But again, this sounds like one of those embellished rock and roll stories.
Oh, yeah. People Are Strange and Light My Fire were the two songs he had requested, and that's great. That's good. You know, I like those stories, though.
I like to believe
it's just
they're all
like,
true.
Fuck you. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. Don't worry, I'll change it when we play it live. Don't worry, I got it. And then, sure enough, what's that song? Alabama song? Show Me the Way the Next.
Yeah.
That's some crazy shit. I didn't. And then Bowie covered it, which I knew. I knew that somewhere in the back of my head that they both did that song. Like, but I never put it together that wasn't a Doors song for some reason.
I've never heard Bowie's version of that song.
Yeah, dude, it's on Space Oddity. It's on his first album, and it's not as good because his is a little more like frantic. It's more close to the actual opera version, but but it's along the same lines. So we're in 1967. He does a concert in New Haven, Connecticut, where he's arrested on stage, and so there's some stuff about that. Supposedly, the cops in a documentary I watched. The cops came. He was with a groupie at the time, and for some reason, I forgot what it was. The cops wanted to talk to him, and I forgot what the reason was. But they practically like broke down a door to talk to him, and he got really pissed off. And he told them to leave because he hadn't done anything wrong. He was just there trying to like get intimate with some girl, and then so he starts recounting the whole story on stage, and then the cops arrest him over it. I think that's what the story behind his first arrest, and they charge him with a whole bunch of bullshit, basically.
Well, and I think his first arrest is in Tallahassee, though.
Oh, is it?
When is he got fucked up at I'm not sure, but he was arrested in Tallahassee, Florida, for pulling a prank while being fucked up at a football game.
Oh shit! Oh, okay. So I should say his first arrest on stage. He's had more than one arrest on stage, of course. But also sometimes I wonder because in this case, in the 1967 one, if this is the one I'm thinking about, there were no charges pressed. They held him for a few days. This
is September 28th, 1963.
Okay,
so this is before the Doors.
Yeah, that's when he's like in his adolescence. But this one on stage, he wasn't. There were no charges pressed. And then sometimes it makes me wonder, like, I don't know. I'm always so suspicious of everything. I'm like, was that a PR move? Like, was that like a publicity stunt? I always think that. I have like a marketing mind. I'm always like, I would do that as a publicity stunt. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just me.
Gotta do a little something.
Yeah, especially because it happened to him twice. You know what I mean? Like, he got arrested on stage twice. A little suspect. But it was a different time. I mean, this is like the time when like. Wasn't like Lenny Bruce getting arrested for stand-up comedy around this time? Or was that way earlier?
For saying the word fuck?
Yeah, dude, it's like, you said one curse word and you get arrested? Man, that's a little... And then like...
Yeah, you know...
That's another crazy thing to me about the Doors is like, this is the same era as like the Beatles. I think for the era, these guys are pretty like rebellious and dark. Like, or at least Jim Morrison is for sure. Jim Morrison...
Yeah.
And then, okay, I have like no information between that and their next album, which is only a year later. They're pretty good at releasing albums, like every year, pretty much, while they were doing it. And so they
is Waiting for the Sun. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, what were you gonna ask?
No, I was just trying to figure out. I'm Waiting for the Sun. Is that the one that has that song? I was trying to figure out.
Let's see what it's got. It's got 5 to 1. That song's fucking classic. Cool. All right, so yeah, that's Waiting for the Sun, and then right after that they do Soft Parade. So what's on Soft Parade? Do It, Easy Ride, Runnin' Blue, Shaman's Blues, Tell the People, The Soft Parade, Touch Me, Wild Child, and Wishful Sinful. I know Wishful Sinful and Touch Me, and that's it.
And this is on the next album, right?
Yeah.
The Soft Parade?
Soft Parade.
Yeah, there really isn't much that happened between that year and that year. It's, they did their first European tour, I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice. Good times. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And that's when they did during the Waiting for the Sun album, they did their first Hollywood Bowl appearance, and I think that's where that DVD comes from.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Soft Parade, that's 69, pretty much. I'm surprised these guys didn't play Woodstock. Let's see, where else are we going to? 6 and 7, 68. The Doors played performances at London, England. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. The tour. They played with Jefferson Airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else? Okay, Morrison was a heavy drinker, was showing up for sessions inebriated, and frequently late for live performances. He was starting to go off the rails live toward the end of the Doors. I know that. There were performances where he would just like be fucked up. There's one, according to a documentary, where he was he just got really drunk and started like pounding the floor with the mic, and so yeah, dude, like, and he just like wouldn't play. Like, I hear he didn't love live performing. I hear that it was stressful for him.
Well, didn't he perform with his back to the fucking audience for a while?
Oh yeah, that's right. When he started, they were like begging him to start facing the audience because he didn't want to face the audience when he performed. He probably had some like level of stage fright. Like he wasn't exactly a showman, you know. He was just himself, which ended up being the show.
Right, and then in '69, that's when he starts getting fat.
Yeah,
and he has that fucking beard.
Yeah, dude, and then
he just looks like shit.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. There's like footage of him recording during that time, and he's let himself go, dude. And so when they're recording at that time, basically, like they agreed to like stop doing as many live performances, and they cut their last album without like I think touring it, I think, or like without playing a lot of live performances, from what I heard. And this is the second time he gets arrested on stage.
He's starting to kind of like, right. What does he take out his dick, right?
Well, see, here's the thing: is I hear a lot of conflicting things. Supposedly, he said, "You want to see my cock," and he never actually pulled anything out, and then he got arrested for indecent exposure. Again, a different time, right? The band members say he never exposed himself at all. And like I've heard all kinds of conflicting things. Like supposedly he got naked and told the audience to get naked, and people were actually starting to do it, or that he was trying to incite a riot. But I don't know. And then his female counterpart, what's her name, Pamela? She's floating theories supposedly that the CIA wanted him stopped, or the FBI wanted him stopped, or some shit. Then I don't know if I can believe her.
Yeah.
She's the last person who was with him when he died. And I don't trust her just based on that.
She was his handler, bro. That's all it was.
I know, dude. I know. They had such a toxic relationship. But we got to start moving this train along. So I'm going to go on to the solo Jim Morrison stuff, which is Mr. Mojo Risin. Because if you don't know, I think everyone here probably knows, but whoever's watching this outside of it, that's an anagram for
Mojo Risin.
Yeah, and that's an anagram. You mix all those letters around and you spell Jim Morrison. And I didn't know that. I heard that on K-Earth one day. And I was like, oh, holy shit. I didn't know that. The shit blew my mind. Then,
I didn't know that either. I thought he was talking about his dick.
You know what? That's like a logical assumption, dude. I never even thought that. You know, it's probably both.
I swear to God, that's what it meant.
It's probably
Mr.
both.
Mojo Rise. I thought he was just getting a hard on.
That actually makes a lot more sense than what I said. But yeah, but if you arrange the letters around, yeah, it spells Jim Morrison. And I learned that from like some random K-Earth DJ who sucked. You know the K-Earth DJs, they're like unbearable. Okay, so he was really into the fields of theater, film, and cinematography, and made a few short films. He published a few volumes of poetry in '69. The Lord's and Notes on Vision and the New Creatures, which I guess, you know, he was already pretty much famous from the Doors at that point. So that's the only reason people would buy your book of poetry, right?
Right, correct.
I mean, because if you're nobody, no one wants to hear your poetry. But if you're Jim Morrison, now people want to hear your poetry. So he used to deny, apparently, being part of his family, and he said he was an only child for a long time.
That his parents were dead.
That's fucked up, dude. Like, journalists believed that about him for a long time. That's pretty sad. But I guess him and his again, dead mom, or your dad hates you, right? And Jim Morrison,
right.
His dad, like, were always they had a contentious relationship. So again, that prophecy is fulfilled, where Jim Morrison is hated by his dad. So good times.
And some type of fucking like neglect has to fuel that fucking creativity, man.
Yeah, I guess so. Something's gotta like push you.
This bitch was crazy, man.
Yeah, she seemed like it. She definitely did.
Yeah, but she was hot, so there's that.
Yeah, hot and crazy. That's how I like them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like her and Jim had a similar element about them.
Yeah, like we said, it's that they were fucking highly flammable fucking gases to each other. Like one was a flame and the other one was a gas that just would not, like, you know, it was controlled. It was a beautiful fucking combustion, but out of control, it was lethal as fuck.
Yeah, see, and now that's why I'm so suspicious that she was the only one around when he died, or if he died, because I could see Jim Morrison faking his death. You know what I mean? I could see that happening. Like, if any musical artist faked their own death, it would be Jim Morrison. He's just crazy enough to do it. You know what I mean?
You think it was he was highly like fucking narcissistic, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we get that from him. I wouldn't know 100%, but they make it a point in the movie to like drive this point across that he couldn't deal with how his image was, like how people saw him.
Yeah.
Overweight and all that shit.
Yeah.
So you think that it was just easy for him to just fucking jump ship as Jim Morrison and become somebody else?
Yeah,
because he didn't like the attention, right? Like,
yeah,
like it was evident he didn't like the attention. Then he got it, and he just couldn't control it. It wasn't.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I think at the end of the day,
like we've had all these episodes where these people who were like driven to be rock stars, right? And they're like, I'm gonna be a fucking rock star. Like you're like David Bowie's, for instance, or who we do last? Some of the Tom Petty. Like almost everyone was like, I'm gonna be a fucking rock star.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, and then it feels like Jim Morrison like accidentally tripped over it. Like sometimes, like he just got in good with the right people. It had a lot of good poetry. Wasn't even anything to write home about as a singer. Wasn't looking for the fame and fortune, like, but ended up being like the Jim Morrison. It's kind of crazy. So I mean, I'm sure he was driven on some level though too, because he was artistic and was going to art school and everything. Every member of his family was surprised when he became famous as a singer. His dad said he thought he had no skill as a singer. So it's crazy. Yeah.
And that's like non-supportive.
Yeah, totally non-supportive. Like. And on some level, he's right, because Jim Morrison is almost more known for his soul than his like singing ability. Like, but he's almost known more as a character than anything on some level. Like, I mean, he's a great singer. Right. Don't get me wrong, but he's almost more of a great writer than he is a great singer. Yeah,
definitely a fucking just an extraordinary lyricist, poet.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So what else is there about Pamela Curson? She ended up, her family ended up with all the rights to his music, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say his shares, right?
Yeah, exactly. his stuff, and then in one of their albums they started to alter
left her everything.
Yeah, he left her everything. I mean,
but then this bitch dies, you know, just a little bit after him.
yeah, right, pretty close on the heels of him. It just goes to show how like in lockstep they were with each other, because like a few years after he dies, she dies.
She was just as lost.
Do you know what she died of? Because I read that, okay, after Kirsten's death in 1974, I don't know what she died of, though.
I mean, she was taking a lot of fucking drugs. Yeah, heroin overdose.
I should have figured.
I should have made you guess, right? Natural cause of heroin.
Well, I mean, she's so young, it was like, yeah, drugs. Definitely drugs. The drugs had to happen.
Yeah, man. Fucking heroin.
I wanted to point out that there were some other relationships that like Jim Morrison had gotten into, including with the singer from Jefferson Airplane, and supposedly he had an alcohol-fueled encounter with Janis Joplin, but I didn't read into the source to see what that was. I don't know if he like.
She hit him over the head with a bottle.
I heard that part, so yeah. So she hit him over the head with a bottle of whiskey during a fight in front of witnesses. But didn't we say in the Janis Joplin episode that he pursued her pretty aggressively? That he wanted to be with her, like somehow, like romantically maybe, or sexually, something?
Yeah, I think he falls in love because she wasn't taking any of his shit. Oh, yeah, he was used to like females going crazy over him.
Yeah.
And she was used to driving people crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from what I read, yeah, she couldn't stand him. Like, it was like, ugh, Jim Morrison, that's how I was. And he was like, oh my God, Janis Joplin, like that crazy bitch.
I could see that. You know what? Janis Joplin seems like she's like super down to earth. Like, and Jim Morrison seems like super pretentious. I could see that conflict. I could see it in my head somehow.
Yeah, because he likes that craziness, and what she was always looking for was love, even though she was like just all over the place herself. She was pretty, I don't want to say necessarily promiscuous, but kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, she
had a lot of lovers.
Yeah, she got around. She definitely got around with both sexes. So I mean, I call that promiscuous. But but not with Jim Morrison apparently. So that's where she drew the line, which is especially crazy because he's Jim Morrison. I don't know.
Right. You don't expect that.
Yeah.
And he also, yeah, but Pam is always in there. She's like in the picture.
Yeah.
Even when he had that like weird ass, like weird wedding ceremony with Patricia. I can't remember her last name.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Remember?
That's right. I have that in here somewhere.
That fucking. That's
the
that
pagan
witch.
ceremony. Patricia Kennelly. Or Keneally. Yeah. I mean, him and Pam.
And they made her so fucking hot in the movie.
You know, I don't think I got that far, dude.
From what I know, she was all like into some weird shit.
It sounds like it, dude. Like pagan hand fasting ceremony. What?
Yeah. And they were declared wed by the Celtic high priestesses and high priest.
And they signed
on a Midsummer's Night in 1970. Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like legally binding. And then they have this open relationship where apparently she lets that stuff happen. But you know, I've heard tell that like she wasn't like completely cool about like his non-exclusivity. But I don't know. I'm telling tales out of school. So
well, I think she gets pregnant by him, right?
Oh, does she? Does she have Jim Morrison's kid? I didn't even know that, dude. I didn't even know Jim Morrison had a kid, to be honest.
Well, I don't know, but I know that the whole ceremony is described that no one here gets out alive.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah.
It's a blending of souls on a karmic and cosmic plane.
Ah, I see. Ah, yes.
But he was still fucking around with Pamela when he'd come to, like, L.A.
Yeah, so he's basically, he was a polygamist at this point, man. You know? Officially or unofficially. Because how do you go and marry someone while you're... Well, he was never married to Pamela, though. It was common law. So, you know.
No, but she did become pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to count for something. So I wonder if Jim Morrison's kid is out there making mediocre music somewhere. I really hope so. I can't believe I didn't. No matter how much I try to research these artists, dude, I leave cold spots. I don't know how I do it.
It happens, man.
I know, man. I'm bad at doing book reports, dude. Death reports.
Nah, I know. I'm just like, I don't know if she did have his kid.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay, so look, there was Well, there's this. At the time of Morrison's death, there were multiple paternity actions pending against him. So, although no claims were made against his estate by any of the paternity claimants. So that's funny. I mean, I imagine he got around. And so, I guess I have to entertain the theory that he's probably got a few kids floating out there. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, just stepping back really quick, that time he got arrested for supposedly wanting to pull his cock out and everything on stage, that he got arrested and charges were pressed for that, and they wanted him to do jail time of 6 months and pay a $500 fine or something. And they appealed it and everything, and there was bail set and everything, so he was out on bail. And that might have been part of the reason he went to Paris, so he could avoid serving his time. But he died before the appeal ever got handled, so it's just an interesting fact that he was supposed to serve 6 months of jail time for that, and that's not going to happen. Oh, and then I believe it happened in Florida, wherever it happened. They posthumously gave him a pardon in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
And that's so stupid though, because it's like, don't waste my fucking taxpayer money to pardon someone who's dead. He's dead. No one cares. Like, don't do it as a show of good faith. Why don't you do your job? Like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't get so angry about it, but it really pissed me off when I read it. Like, I don't care. He's dead. I don't know. It made me mad. Pamela Curson was also 27 when she died, making her part of Club 27.
Yes.
Sorry, just had to say that. That's crazy. Anyway,
and she dies. So he dies. So we're at
Paris, right?
He gets to Paris in March of '71. And then he wrote a couple of letters, and he describes going for walks in the city alone. I guess he was finding himself again.
Yeah.
So he shaved his beard. He lost some of the weight.
Yeah.
And I guess he was like,
he was cleaning up.
He told the guys he was gonna come back. Yeah. Because he leaves the doors, and they're not broken up. They're kind of like on a hiatus. He had to go find himself.
Right. Oh,
so he just pretty much tells them like. Yeah. He'll be back. He'll be back. I'll be back. Never happened. And on July 3rd, 1971, he dies at the age of 27.
Yep.
He was found by Pamela in the bathtub. Mm-hmm. The official cause of death. You get this? Yeah. Natural or drugs?
Well. So okay. Well. So. Who knows, right? But we don't have confirmation because it says heart failure.
Well, we just have a heart failure, but no reason as to why. Like, was it a fucking bunch of coke in the system, or
was it a congenital heart defect that nobody knew about? Like, right? Because it could be.
Right.
Stranger things have happened. I mean, he was young, but he wasn't exceedingly young. Late 20s, people die in their late 20s from natural causes all the time.
Yeah, but French law does not require an autopsy, so we'll never really know what happened.
How convenient for Pamela if they didn't need an autopsy. I don't know. I mean, there's that thing we always talk about where if you take a break from drugs, right, then you go back to them. Like, say you take a break from heroin for an extended period of time, and you're like, hey, let's celebrate, let's do this heroin, and you start at a dose that you used to do, and your tolerance has dropped. Now it's an overdose dose. You know what I mean? So some people aren't ready for that. So that sounds like something that could have happened because he's cleaning up his life. So that's the first thing I suspect. But I just think it's so weird that, like, there's not a lot of information. There's no details. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's getting old conspiracy theory again, but
Well, here, let me even tell you why it's even weirder.
Okay.
So, 2 years to the day, July 3rd, 1969, Rolling Stones guitarist Brian Jones dies at the age of 27.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly 2 years to the day. Like, July 3rd of 69, Brian Jones dies. And on July 3rd, 1971... Jim Morrison dies. Approximately 9 months after Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin both die at the age of 27. Ain't that some shit?
Everyone of suspicious, like, with some level of suspicion involved. Okay, well, but there's these things about Jim Morrison was writing these, like, stories and these, like, poetries about a man getting, like, having to abandon his belongings and grieving due to a police investigation and being connected to the Chinese opium trade. So that sounds like him talking about his life in America, leaving his life in America behind because of his relationship with drugs and stuff. But some people took that as some kind of premonition about him saying he was gonna be killing himself or something. But it talks a lot about poppies and opium, so probably his relationship to heroin and stuff. But I was also saying like it's still suspicious. Like he no suicide, no nothing like that. So you rule that out. But I don't know. Yeah, but like you said about the whole 27 thing, it's all too coincidental. It's so coincidental, dude, that all these greats are dying at 27.
So we lose Jim Morrison in Paris on July 3rd,
Under
1971.
Circumstances. There's also some
unclear.
Yeah, and then his grave. So he's buried in France. They didn't send his body home.
It's another thing.
Yeah, and then his gravestone is like frequently vandalized. He's buried with like good company, like what's her name, Edith Piaf, who did La Vie en Rose. She did that song.
Oscar Wilde,
dude. Yeah, it's crazy. So he's like with good company, but his grave is like constantly defaced and like vandalized. There's that sculptor who like made a bust of him that he would put on the grave, and it would like shit he made would either get broken or stolen. So like he stopped trying to replace it.
And his in the directory, it's Douglas James Morrison.
Yeah, to like throw people's scent off so they don't know it's Jim Morrison. And then like people like they have to ask people to not leave alcohol bottles because people will leave a ton of alcohol bottles on his grave. Leave some for the homies. There's a lot of one other thing I do want to mention about legacy actually is that Iggy Pop was heavily inspired by Jim Morrison. He saw him live and it inspired him to do his own thing. So that's like that you could see that effect, right? Like you could see that influence. That's pretty cool. What else? I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff because there's somewhere in here there's a huge list of people that he supposedly inspired, and it's like no shit, he's Jim Morrison, so we could talk about his influence for the rest of the night. Yeah, who did any influence?
But let's put some notable names out there.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, like Lane Staley, the vocalist of Alice in Chains, Eddie Vedder, Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots, Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. We said that earlier. Let's see. Julian Casablancas of the Strokes cites him as an influence. That makes sense. I can see that. I don't know who. Oh, James LaBrie of Dream Theater. I hate Dream Theater. Dream Theater is so pretentious, but that makes sense because of all the pretension. So we ready to crown Jim Morrison the obvious title he deserves?
Well, he does come with his own title, right?
He gave it to himself, and I'm not going to dispute it. That's the thing. He is officially the Lizard
definitely
King.
Is the Lizard King.
But
on a musical basis, I don't know, because
it's tough.
From all the acts of his era, he's like the closest to being I would even go as far to say kind of like goth, fucking
like proto-goth,
a new wave. Like a dark wave.
Yeah.
Like he predates all of that, like he even said it, like Julian Casablanca, but I think even further than that, like Joy Division is the founders of that kind of like dark wave kind of shit, right? But I think he predates that because the monotone, the mystery behind the man. So he
like
goes down as the Lizard King.
That. Yeah, dude, he's definitely the Lizard King. He's some kind of reptile.
He's a reptilian, man.
Look. Dude, yeah, he's one of the reptilians. That's why they killed him at 27, dude, because he was going to spill all their secrets. I'm figuring it out.
Hey,
dude.
maybe, man.
I got you figured out, reptilian.
He was off the hinges, man. He he started talking too much.
Yeah, dude. Well, Pamela said that the CIA or FBI or something wanted him dead. I read that somewhere, and that sounds like a lot of bullshit. It sounds like she you know what? He probably just overdosed, right? Right?
Yeah, but then she dies 3 years later at 27.
Yeah, dude. What the fuck? Moving on to the end of the show, but we don't have a plan, right, for next week's episode. So good times. It was a great episode. Man. It was one of my favorite ones. I had a good time doing it.
And Mr. Mojo Risin, bro, the Lizard King.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, hell yeah. He's something.
Pretentious enough to give himself his own title.
Yeah, he did the work for us, dude. I mean, he really did, too. He was really easy to do a show on, dude, because he's a character.
Yeah, for real. Well, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's Death in Music, episode 13.
Yep.
Jim fucking Morrison, the Lizard King.
That's right. Everyone, thank you. Especially thank you to Avocado Badado, because that's the hardest name to say. So thank you, Avocado Badado, for watching the show. All right, guys. So,
Commander Root.
yeah, everyone in the chat, thank you guys. And then Mazzy, even though you're probably asleep, thank you for participating for half the show. You know, you got to pick up the slack next week. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. It's been a great episode.
Oh, special shout out always to Sarah.
Oh yeah, Sarah. Thank you for donating, Sarah. Thanks, Mazzy.
And like always, guys, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook Live, and Twitch TV Live, YouTube as well. Which we're missing the YouTube symbol right there, Robbie Diesel.
Yeah, because it's not Death in Music on YouTube. It's like some weird channel name, so I have to put this little short link. It's the best thing I can do.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, dude.
Oh shit, my bad.
You don't get to name your channel on YouTube. You don't get like a word until you have like so much clout. YouTube sucks, dude.
Oh, okay. Fuck them cocksuckers.
Yeah,
all right.
I know. But once we have enough subscribers, don't worry. We'll be at Death in Music.
Yeah. On everything else, we are Death in Music, all one word. And next week, the 19th, we'll have something juicy for you. It probably won't be Tom Petty, so be happy with that.
Oh, Liz is right. We should be playing. The song is 11 minutes long.
Well, you're gonna have to put it in for the entire for the listeners on the podcast.
But if I'm just gonna jump into the part, look.
No, you can't do that. You can't just do that.
Because if I play it with silence, it makes it so much harder to get the show out.
No, I know.
But you know what?
All right,
this truly is the end, my only friend. So, all right. Thanks for being part of it, man. I'll see you next week. We'll see you all next week.
Brother. Thanks.
Have a good one, dude.
Have a good night, bro.
You too.